you want to speak on anything on the agenda, fill out the speaker slip. I have one here right now. And then give that to Yesa Benson there, our secretary. And with that, we'll have a roll call, please. Yesa?
Commissioner Bernington?
Here.
Commissioner Champenois?
We're going to excuse her.
Okay. Commissioner Keith? Here. Vice Chair Cundiff?
Here.
And Chair Barron.
Here. Thank you. Staff, we have Kelly Lucia, our planning director, Celine Sevilla, our associate planner, Mike Thornton, our city engineer, and Yesa Benson is our commission secretary. And with that, could everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time, I have no public comments on anything other than the item number 2. So we'll go right into our approval of the minutes. Anybody have any changes, corrections, or approve as is?
I'll make a motion to approve as is.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. So then we'll go into our public hearing. And open the public hearing. We'll do a staff presentation.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission, and public. Thank you all for being here tonight. Tonight, on Agenda Item 2, we have a public hearing for Conditional Use Permit 2303 for Kitty Academy to operate a daycare center at the northwest corner of Roberts Road and Cherry Valley Boulevard. So if you all can refer to the exhibit on the screen, some of the commissioners and public may recall this development review application was originally approved back in July 2020. This approval was for the design and layout of a 75,000 square foot retail shopping center known as the Summerwind Commons. Reason for tonight is per Calamasa Municipal Code Table 182530. Daycare facilities are an allowable use in the city's commercial district upon approval of a conditional use permit.
Thank you.
The applicant of the center is diligently working on completing construction and securing leases with their tenants, one of which is Kitty Academy. Kitty Academy, the applicant for the conditional use permit, is requesting approval to operate a daycare center at Pad A11. You can see right there next to that basin. If we can move on to the next exhibit. We can get this. So sorry, it's not letting me. Sorry about that. Well, I guess I'll quickly note that the next exhibit that we're going to look at is just being provided for reference for the commissioners and public to get a better visual of the daycare facility and what it will encompass, but the applicant has submitted to the city a substantial conformance application for staff level review of their site plan. We could just get it up there.
I had one question real quick. On the 2 circles that are up there, are those supposed to be roundabouts, or are those just open driveways? Circular driveways?
Those are just changes in pedestrian.
So it's just a round driveway then to get into the, okay, because I was like, there's no access to get into these units. except for that one right there.
It's just decorative.
Okay, cool. That's it.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so Kitty Academy is requesting approval to operate a daycare center Monday to Friday between the hours of 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. The total expected occupancy is 188, with 168 being children and 20 staff members. The center will care for children ranging from infants up to 5 years of age. In addition, as a condition of approval of this permit, the applicant is required to be licensed by the Community Care Licensing Division of the State Department of Social Services, which regulates all daycare centers in the state of California, and they regulate things such as outdoor and indoor play area square footage, as well as staff to child ratios. The shopping center as a whole was included in the Summerwind Ranch EIR that encompasses all the retail and industrial. Staff has further analyzed that the development and the potential of environmental impacts and determined that the scope is consistent with the previously certified Summerwind Ranch at Oak Valley Specific Plan Environmental Impact Report. Staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit. And with that, a representative from the applicant's team is here and available for any questions you may have, as well as myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to add anything to that? Okay, thank you. I have one comment here from David.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is David Zades. Bottom line, this is a good project. We need more daycare centers. However, I have one concern and one recommendation to resolve that concern. When we talk about daycare centers, you have a traffic pattern of heavy traffic in the morning, heavy traffic in the evening. In this case, the worst case scenario, you're looking about 188 cars in the morning and 188 cars in the evening. This project has only 2 ingresses and egresses for shopping center. Looks like there's discussion of a gym, for a whole bunch of different uses. And I think that we're going to have issues with traffic with only having 2. My suggestion is to make this a better project and to reduce traffic issues and make it easier for people to ingress and egress and shop there and want to go in, that an additional driveway be added, and that driveway could be either on either side of the daycare center. So it would make it easier for people picking up or dropping off their children to go in, do that, and then come out without heavily impacting the other 2 driveways that allow people to go into the project. My concern is that we're going to, without that, we'll see cars lining up on the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does the applicant have a rebuttal for that, or?
Well, I can speak to,
Microphone, please. Before you do that, I'll just briefly add just a couple of notes. So one, there are restrictions on how many driveways can be placed within certain criteria. We do have the city engineer's office here today. 2, there will be a traffic signal at the main driveway, which will help alleviate some of the traffic concern. And 3, the area that is shown, if you can go back to the site plan, Celine, please. That's easier said than done. Okay, to the, on the other side of the site plan where it looks like there's open area, there actually are development plans for that that's been designed. Has not yet been presented to the Planning Commission. There you go, where you see that basin. I think that's kind of generally where David was talking about potentially another driveway could go. There is a proposed development there that would conflict with that. Rich?
well, actually, that's a nice 2-dimensional representation, but there's 10 feet difference in change in grade, and we have Verdura precast retaining walls already built in place, and we moved 130,000 yards of earth to create the pads that we've already approved, permitted, and built, and that's just not functionally possible. So
maybe I might be able to ask our city engineer, what is the general rule of thumb for distance between driveways? Do you know offhand?
I don't know offhand, but adding another driveway creates a little bit more safety issues along the main roadway of Roberts Road, so we would defer that. I think when you say 180 cars in the morning and 180 cars in the afternoon, I'm just kind of looking at stacking here. There's quite a bit of room to kind of line up those cars with the way they've configured the parking lot. Our goal here would, of course, not be any stacking in the public right-of-way. We give the school district a lot of, I guess, bad press, maybe, to say, hey, stack your cars within the school district's property. We would say the same here for the Kitty Academy. We need to make sure that all those are out of the public right-of-way when they stack and drop kids off.
Well, actually, the change in grade helps with that because they can't climb up 10, 12 feet and park in New Roberts Road to access the site.
They can't climb, so you're talking stack and then...
No, I'm just saying, no one's going to pull over and let a child out when there's a retaining wall that's 10 feet high.
I'm talking about car stacking. You can let a child in front of the building.
Excuse me, David, we got him talking right now. We're not supposed to let people talk out, out in the audience out there. I get in trouble, so. You can do that with the mayor, not me.
I don't know if I could add, Chair. From a perspective of how the kids are dropped off, these are young kids we're talking about, right? I mean, nobody would drop a young child off to climb a slope of 10 or 12 feet
On New Roberts Road.
that's 2 or 3 years old. At least I would hope not.
I hope not.
So,
And
yeah.
so I just want clarification. So as I'm listening to this slope that we're talking about, you're talking about off of Roberts Road, there's going to be a slope, so it doesn't make sense for somebody to stop on Roberts Road, let their child out, or even try to walk them up a slope or
It
over.
does not
a
make any
walk-
sense.
That doesn't make any
No,
sense.
Makes no sense.
Okay.
And we have a traffic signal there.
On the road,
To turn in.
go up and around.
Well, our master traffic study that regulates the whole site gives X number of cars a day, and it's also parceled off to individual parcels. And when we get a tenant that comes in and requests an application, we make them each do a traffic letter and compare it with the same Urban Crossroads, our master traffic engineer for the project, and they're also the master traffic engineer for the entire specific plan, so that each tenant then gets a traffic letter, and we were substantially under, for all of our tenants so far, of the master that was approved in 2020. So we're within the number of cars the site can physically handle, and we have the traffic signal at that entrance as well. It's the best we can do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to close the public testimony, and then we'll close the public hearing and go to the commission for questions and comments. Don, you have anything, or
Actually, the only
Mike?
question or concern I guess I have would be with the retention pond, since you're gonna have pre-K in there too, and granted the retention pond is like a seasonal creek when it rains, it's wet and all, but, we're gonna do something, or how are we gonna it is fenced? I don't have any little kids, so
Cool.
that's all I got.
All right. Eric?
I appreciate the comments that were made about the stacking up. I think that's, something that we should obviously consider, and I appreciate that somebody brought that up, but understanding the layout of it, it seems to me that based on the traffic studies and the city engineer and the testimony from the applicant, I believe it's pretty sound.
I think the length from right here, the entrance coming in here, coming over here, in here, all this parking.
Yeah,
They're
the
gonna
park-
be taking kids in there.
And they're not going to
There's a lot
stay.
of
That's
parking.
the thing. They're going to come in, park,
Right.
drop off, and then make their way out.
And
So,
you have different times.
yeah. So I think it's
No
good.
different than the middle school. John?
No, I really think it's a pretty good project. I think Kitty Academy's got a great reputation. Helping young children get acclimated to school, and as far as traffic, that's good for everybody. That's the matter.
Cool. I don't have anything either. I think it's a good project myself, too. So with that, Is there anything else from staff? Make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2023-06, approving conditional use permit 23-03 for Kitty Academy Educational Childcare to operate a 6,156 square foot daycare facility at the Summerwind Commons Shopping Center, subject to the conditions of approval provided therein. And we find the project to be consistent with the scope of work, with the approval and the certified EIR of the Summerwind Ranch Oak Valley Specific Plan, in parentheses, SCH number 2004-061035.
I'll second.
Madam President, all in favor?
Aye.
Good to go. Thank you. With that, we'll go to our business item, our general plan annual progress report and the 2022 housing element progress report.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission, public. Thank you for being here this evening. Hopefully my PowerPoint is a little more agreeable for me. We'll find out together. Okay, good.
Batteries.
We'll get there someday, you guys. Thank you for your patience. There you go. At least we're in air conditioning, right? Next slide. Thank you. Okay, this will be a very brief presentation. I just wanted to highlight the building permits that were issued by Affordability Range. And just to give a little bit of background and context to this, every city in the state is required to prepare what's called a general plan. And every 8 years, we have to prepare our housing element. We're still currently going through our housing element update. So this item that's on the agenda tonight, it doesn't modify the general plan. It doesn't change any zoning. This is just a receive and file report that's required annually to go up to the Office of Planning and Research and also to the State HCD Housing and Community Development Department. And we're required to tell them, based on our zoning, the affordability of each stratified income level, how many permits were actually issued by the city. And so this is for the last calendar year. You'll see at the top of the slide there, it's from October 15th, 2021 to October 15th, 2029. That is the planning period, and that's July 1st to December 31st of 22. So consistent with previous years, the city of Calimesa issued building permits for only one income level, and that was the above moderate income level. 13 building permits were issued, and excuse me, it looks like we do have 3 moderate. Those were all accessory dwelling units. So a total of 16 building permits were issued in the last calendar year. It looks like we also had 180 single-family dwelling units that were entitled. You may remember track 37802. We call that the Reedman map over off of Desert Lawn Drive. So that received entitlement in calendar year 22. Again, we permitted 13 and we completed 47. So each one of those 47 permits would have been captured by the Richmond American Track out in Summerwind Trails. So that represents the final build out of phase 1 of Summerwind. And then at the bottom there, it shows just that the total housing applications that were submitted were 6. And I like when I show numbers to show it in kind of a comparative format. So next slide, please. Thank you. That's great. So this is these are the slides for our last planning cycle. Again, we need to report on this annually every 8 years. And just for reference, it looks like in 2013 we issued 0 building permits in the city for residential units. We issued 37 in 2014 for above moderate, 77 in 2015 for the same income category, 116 back in 2016. You can see Summerwind ramping up. So basically all Summerwind units and also Singleton Heights and JP Ranch. 2017 we issued 43, 2018 86, 2019 and 2020 represent the largest number of building permits issued in the past couple of planning cycles at 286 and 342 respectively. And then it starts to taper off in 21 down to 73. So you can see in that last planning period, that last planning cycle, there were 1,060 residential units that were issued in the city of Calamasa, and all but one were for above moderate income levels. With that, that's just an overview of the permits that were issued. There is also a report within the staff report available to the public and to the commission that shows goal by goal within our general plan all of the various accomplishments and programs that were achieved during the last calendar year. So with that, I would be happy to take your questions.
No,
None?
maybe a lot of work that you put into this.
Anyone?
I have a question. Refresh my memory when we say with the income level, since they're not sold properties yet, real estate up and down, how do we actually determine? I know when we buy them, we can say they're low income because of the loan limits and that dictating, but how are we dictating this on building permits? So we just buy what the builder says he's looking to send it in
No.
50 to 400 range, and he goes
No.
higher or lower? How do we adjust it? How do we account for it?
Sure, that's a great question. So there is a set of criteria, it's a formula that's issued by the state. So this table here is one of many, many tables in this report that has to be submitted annually. And one of them is a formula table by income level. And so you have to put in a bunch of criteria, and for lack of a better way to say it, really is educated guesses. And typically when you have a single-family detached single-family home, almost always it qualifies for an above moderate income level. And then you'll see on the previous slide there were 3 units for ADUs where we were allowed to count them for moderate. But really when you're looking at the low income and the very low income levels, those where you would see attached products. So if we had a new apartment complex at a certain density in Calamasa, it's any attached product over 20 dwelling units to the acre qualifies for low and very low. So we haven't had any of those housing types, so that's typically how it's stratified, is through housing type and density.
But we're in compliance because we've zoned for it, right, or accounted for it? We just don't have any applicants to build for that, right?
Correct. So
Okay.
this was our previous housing element. We had to get it certified.
Right.
In 2014, we did receive certification. We're still, unfortunately, chasing our certification for this planning cycle. Once you get that certification, it's the state saying, yes, you've met all housing laws with your zoning alone. And then annually, the way that they check in on us is annually we have to turn these in. So we zone once every 8 years, and then once a year we tell them how many actually got built. And it's publicly available information you can find. This is called an annual progress report. Every city in the state has to issue one of these, and you can find, hey, what did my neighbor city produce? What did Fontana produce? And by and large in Southern California, you're going to see repetition, and that it's almost all above moderate units being constructed in California, which exacerbates our housing crisis. But again, this is just receive and file. This is just to give you the information. It's already been presented to the state, and it's already been presented to the city council as well.
But the overlay zoning that we have that's coming up, that would help with that, wouldn't it?
That is the intention, and that'll be on a future agenda.
All right.
Thank you.
Nothing else, anyone? No? Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. My favorite one. General plan consistency, Calamasa Boulevard, realignment of Singleton Road, at Singleton Road, sorry. Who's going to give us that one?
That's going to be me again, and go Wizard of Oz back there. It's the same PowerPoint. Go to slide 4, please. Okay, so the commission and public and council are aware that we have quite a number of infrastructure projects going on in the city. We have the need at each and every one of our interchanges to have some level of upgrade. Right now, currently, you'll see there's construction going on Cherry Valley Boulevard interchange. There are some interim signals being installed, and there are similar, what I'll call interim improvements being planned for at the Singleton I-10 interchange. So here, this is just our circulation map from our general plan, pointing out the project location. And once again, this is Calamasa Boulevard at the I-10 interchange. Next slide, please. So here you can see the current alignment in that black border. That is the study area for the project. And so that current alignment is relatively close to the existing halfway built interchange. And next slide, please. As part of what I'll call phase 1 improvements, there are kind of 3 components that are being planned for and processed currently. There is the paving of the on and off ramp that are currently missing. There are traffic signals at those interchanges. And then the third would be the realignment of Calamasa Boulevard. So those first 2 sets of improvements that I mentioned, those are being processed by Caltrans and the Federal Highway Administration. Those are not in city right-of-way, and those are being processed by jurisdictions alongside the city of Calamasa and the city engineer's office. However, the Calamasa Boulevard realignment is fully within the city of Calamasa. It's within our jurisdiction and within our permitting authority. And to just kind of complicate things, whenever you have interchange improvements made, typically Caltrans requests that you get intersections as far away from the interchange as possible. It's stacking, it's safety, it's circulation. And so as part of those improvements I just mentioned, the paving of the interchange and those traffic signals that are being planned for, Caltrans said, hey city, we see you have a roadway intersection that's really close to our interchange. You got to scoot that a little bit further to the east. And so that's what this project is. It's picking up the existing alignment and shifting it to the east. And again, that's a requirement by Caltrans and FHWA. And Mike, our city engineer, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't think so. Maybe I'll just add, I'm here to answer any questions that the commission has.
Okay. And just to close the loop on why we're talking about it this evening, I'm not asking you to consider an environmental document this evening. That'll be going forth to City Council with the actual plans for their consideration. Tonight's action is a request that the Planning Commission find this realignment consistent with the general plan. Within the staff report and resolution, there are a number of general plan goals and policies outlined and accompanying description on how and why this project fits well within the existing general plan. And if I can go back 2 slides, please. Okay. So, and there again, this is the existing general plan, so you can see that dark blue segment. This just ever so slightly shifts it to the east, and so staff's recommendation is that the commission find the project consistent with and compliant with the general plan. With that, be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. Mike, got any questions?
I guess my only thing, since I drive by it all the time, that's a chunk of dirt we would be moving around. Is that not that little corner of the road?
Yes.
It is. If you can go 2 forward, do you kind of see how the white areas of the slope?
Can we go 2 slides forward, please?
See how that white area there kind of extends out? That is the area I think you're referring to.
And also, I'll mention that the alignment also has some minor impacts to Montes Montessori. The city engineer's office has been working closely with the ownership to work on a mutually acceptable relocation of some facilities. So that is something that we've been actively working on.
As far as property, I'm guessing we're eminent domain, are we property owners, or do we have that in our portfolio already, or is that
So
work in progress?
So the first, it's a work in progress. The first step is going to be general plan consistency. Then there will be environmental compliance, and once those steps are completed, the city engineer's office can start to pursue right-of-way acquisition and construction.
So maybe just to add, we hope not to use the power of eminent domain. We would hope we could negotiate a fair price. What I would say to you, the improvements that are being done here for anyone who owns land in this area will vastly increase the value of these properties. We're going to have a fully functioning interchange ultimately, together with a new roadway. I would think it would make the property more valuable.
So would
It is multiple on both sides as shown there of Singleton.
Eric?
So, for most of the plans I was looking at, it looks like four lanes is what's gonna be done,
That's correct.
but we're approved up to 6.
I think ultimately this roadway is a 4-lane roadway. I don't think we would expand it to 6, but does our
Are
circulation
we gonna
plan-
have I mean, I'm sure I'm getting ahead of the project, right? But if it's gonna be 4, is there gonna be like a center median down the way for emergency vehicles to get to?
Yes, there would be a striped median as part of it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, not a,
Raised median.
Not a
Different-
raised median.
Okay.
So
Not
the
a travel
general
lane.
plan calls for 4 to 6 lanes
Right.
with a center median. And then typically it's within the design authority of the city engineer to determine exactly within those parameters how many lanes will be constructed, and also dependent on the traffic studies for any projects that may be adjacent.
Right. Because, I mean, as it is right now, it's 2-lane, and whenever the 10 gets backed up, that gets really backed up. And we had testimony in here one evening of a EMS problem trying to get into the mobile home park, you know, and that's a concern. We don't want to add to any kind of problems, you know, that they would be experiencing. So that's why I asked about that center median. That would give way for a EMS vehicle to get to where they needed to go without being obstructed, so.
Yes.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
John?
And it's a necessary project. I may not live long enough to see it completed, but, it's quite an undertaking.
Yep. Excellent. Yeah, it's, from the plans that I see and everything like that, the elevation changes and everything, I can actually turn my truck, my 48-foot spread axle on that roadway very, very nicely and not taking out the center median.
Good.
So, yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. With that, I'll make the recommendation that we adopt PC Resolution 2023-07, finding that the Calamasa Boulevard realignment at Singleton Road project is consistent with the Calamasa General Plan. Can I get a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Voila. Commissioners' comments and reports. John?
Do you have any communication that we do with Caltrans and chain link fence on David Long? I made out a formal complaint a few months ago, but I haven't heard. There's a big gaping holes.
This is what happens when cars go through it.
I think we can definitely touch bases with Public Works and see if there's a work order request. I believe Caltrans has an online form where you can submit requests, so I can check in on that for you.
I turned it all in, location of all the bricks.
Okay. Okay, we'll see what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
As always, thank you, Steph, for being so prepared. Appreciate it. That's all I have.
Eric?
Same, just thank the staff and thank the public for being here and for participating. That's all I have.
Very good. Same thing here. All good. Thank you all again. Have a good evening. Thank you very much. I'll call the meeting 6:33. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Hold on.
I wondered.
See? I'm so tired.
You're off the
Miss
hook.
Kelly, I'm sorry.
You're off the hook. I have no further comments. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. Oh, man. I was like, what?
I was getting blown up. I don't know why everybody was texting and calling me. Yeah, right, but they were my kids.